I think it's definitely possible that the Peach Bowl between Georgia and Ohio State ends up being kind of a shootout. I think that both of these offenses are explosive. I think that Georgia's defense is definitely better than Ohio State's defense. Georgia's going to have that kind of pseudo home advantage in Atlanta. You're like, 60, 70 miles away. It's considered the backyard. I expect there to be probably a 70-30 split of Georgia to Ohio State fans. Maybe. I mean, to me, it was 85-15 was the split for the SEC championship. And that's justifiable. But for Ohio State, will it be more? I would assume it'd be more than 15% of the fans. All right, Ohio State travels. Shootout, though. How would that go? I think that the sentiment over the last couple of years, Georgia can't really win a shootout. Their defense does all this stuff. The offense, no. Georgia can put up a lot of points, and if it does become a shootout, well, listen. At the end of the day, I think Georgia's going to win, regardless of how it goes. I think Georgia's the better team, and I think they're going to win this game. But if it's a shootout, I think they're going to win as well because. Dude, it's just like I'm going to go through just some of the things they've done to teams this year that are solid. Georgia can put up points, man. People look at what Ohio State does and killing these Rutgers 49-10 or Iowa 54, putting up 77 against Toledo, and they see C.J. Stroud and they see Marvin Harrison Jr., and it's like, oh man, this team is going to score so many points. Dude, Georgia's scoring a lot of points too. I don't have it pulled up, but I'll find out how many points it is. Ryan Kelee from Dog Post here. Before I find this stat that I should have pulled up beforehand, make sure you're looking at the links down below for all the Kelee Ringo-Signed merchandise because it is limited. At the end of the day, there's not that many copies of everything. So make sure you're checking it out. Would be a great Christmas gift. Total scoring offenses, college football rankings. Let's see. This video is a disaster. Georgia's number 11, 39.2 points per game. Ohio State, 44.5 points per game. So I was wrong preseason. I said Georgia's going to average around 42, 45 points a game. I was a little bit under. But listen, Georgia, this is what they did last year. They averaged about 38 points a game, 39.2. So, look at the Tennessee game. Georgia-Tennessee. This is, could this be a shootout? Is Hendon Hooker and company going to come into Athens and put up a bunch of points? Well, first of all, that was never going to happen with Georgia's defense and the home field advantage. But Georgia stopped Tennessee from scoring, right? And Tennessee is the most similar opponent to Ohio State, right? You got Hendon Hooker as a gunslinger. You got great talent on the outside. Well, Ohio State is similar. Ohio State, I think, is a better version of what they do. And so it is going to be tough because guess what? As much as I can sit here and say, C.J. Stroud and Martin, they've never seen this Georgia defense. I also can say the same thing. Well, this Georgia defense has never seen the Ohio State offense because I'm going to tell you that right now. Georgia hasn't seen an offense this explosive and talented. Tennessee had a more explosive offense, yardage-wise and points-wise. Okay? But Ohio State's is more talented. I feel like I know talent when I see it, and I know that C.J. Stroud's more talented than Hendon Hooker. I know that Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka and Jackson Smith-Njigba, who obviously is not playing, I know they're more talented than Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman. But so that is part of my point. For my eye test, they're better, and they are better. All right, they're in the playoff, and Tennessee's not, and so. When you bring it back to Georgia's offense, well, Ohio State's defense is vulnerable. I mean, they allowed 45 to Michigan. They allowed 30 to Maryland. They allowed 31 to Penn State. Georgia can put up 50. I mean, Georgia's put up 50, twice this year? Once in the SEC Championship and then once against Vanderbilt, and they put up 48 against South Carolina and 49 against Oregon. This is when they're checking their foot off the gas halfway through the third quarter, all right? Which was kind of the case against LSU. It was the case against Vanderbilt, and it certainly was the case against South Carolina and Oregon. They took their foot off the gas. Georgia will put up points if needed because what they've shown is they can adapt like a chameleon and play the type of game they need to. So if it does become a shootout, who's going to win? Well, I think Georgia, because at the end of the day, I think Georgia will get 1 or 2 more stops than Ohio State will, because you sprinkle in the defense into this conversation, and while Georgia's defense is better, because I think that, listen, these corners and these safeties are going to get beat. It's going to happen in the Peach Bowl. All right? They didn't really get beat against Tennessee, and that was a concern, right? I think they will get beat. Marvin Harrison, it's my assumption that Kelee is going to guard Marvin Harrison Jr. because of the physical, the height and everything, and game plan. So that's my guess. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best wide receiver in the sport. He's the best wide receiver in college football, in my opinion. All right? He's going to beat Kelee a few times. He may beat him for a touchdown. I think Keele's going to beat him a few times. Emeka Egbuka against Kamari Lassiter or Javon Bullard. These guys are 5-star receivers, just like these guys are 5-star DBs. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. Now, Ohio State doesn't have a Jalen Carter. They do have JT Tuimoloau. I don't know how to pronounce his name. He's really, really good. They have a defensive playmaker for sure. But they don't have as many defensive playmakers. Stetson Bennett and CJ Stroud are both going to New York as Heisman finalists. It is time that we stop looking at Stetson Bennett as a walk-on and look at him as a Heisman Trophy finalist quarterback. Whether you think he deserves to be a Heisman finalist or not, which he does, it is time to look at him as that. And he is running an offense that does have weapons, that has a Brock Bowers, a Darnell Washington. An offense that can put up points in different ways, an offense that just put up 50 in the SEC championship game. How often does that happen? I think it's happened like a handful of times. So my argument is, yes, I think that they would win a shootout. At the end of the day, links are down below. Make sure you're checking out all the Kelee Ringo-Signed merch. And thanks for watching.